My guest today is the author of a book so controversial that the original printer pulled out at the last minute due to the fear of the PC police. David Van Ghent is a family doctor in Toowoomba, a senior lecturer in palliative medicine, and a frequent contributor to national debates on life and family issues. David was born in Zambia, Central Africa, into a pioneer family of missionary doctors and farmers going back to Robert Moffat and David Livingstone. He is married to Jane and has 3 adult sons and 4 chooks. David Van Ghent has debated bioethical issues on programs such as ABC Lateline, the 7:30 Report, SBS Insight and the Kerry Ann Show. And in the last 20 years he has published dozens of articles in major Australian newspapers and journals. He has also testified on 8 occasions before Senate committees and briefed MPs in 5 states and federally on a range of subjects. In May 2006, David spoke to the United States Senate Values Action Team on stem cell research and cloning. And that same year, David was featured in the medical newspaper Australian Doctor as one of the country's 50 most intriguing GPs. Today, I'm speaking with David Van Ghent in his capacity as President of the Australian Marriage Forum and as the author of the best-selling new book, Stealing from a Child, The Injustice of Marriage Equality. His book is published by Connaught and is available at Coorong bookstores. I've read it and found it very moving. I thoroughly recommend it to everyone interested in better quality information about this important public issue. The link is below this video in the description. David, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, David. Very much indeed. Thank you for your excellent introduction and for your plugging of the book, which is now officially a bestseller.
Look, I think,
and I don't get $1. So it sold about 10,000 copies, but all of the money we get goes straight back into the marriage campaign. So another good reason to buy it.
When I was researching and getting prepared for this conversation, I was pleased to find that a marriage equality advocate, a journalist from BuzzFeed, had bought the book as well for her own information. And I'd thoroughly recommend that for everyone. Even if you're for changing it, reading and getting better familiar and informed by both sides of the debate is a very open-minded, intellectually honest way of processing the rights and wrongs and the justices of this important public discussion. So can you perhaps maybe just help us understand exactly what it is we're trying to change the definition of? What is marriage?
Yeah, you've always got to start any discussion from the basis of truth, of the facts. Yeah. And we've got to get clear. Marriage is a natural institution. It's not created by government.
That's right.
It predates all government. Men and women have vowed themselves to each other and cared for their offspring in that tight unit long before there was any state or any laws. So it's a natural institution of human nature. And it's founded on that biological truth that only a male and female can create offspring, create new life, right? And importantly, the sociological truth that only a man and woman can give their child her mother and her father, her biological identity,
yes,
and her kinship network, a sense of belonging, profound to so many of these children like the ones you quoted, those young women who had lesbian parents, loving parents, but grieved for their missing dad. So gay marriage makes it impossible for children to have both a mum and a dad. That is an injustice, a premeditated injustice against future children. So back to the question of what is marriage. The great anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss said that marriage is a social institution with a biological foundation, end quote. And he said that it was a practically universal phenomenon across all of human history and culture that, quote, 2 individuals of opposite sexes establish a household and bear and raise children, end quote. So that is the natural phenomenon, but all of our social laws and customs exist to reinforce that biological foundation. Our laws and our celebration of marriage exists to help keep a man with his mate,
Yeah.
For the sake of social stability.
Yeah.
But above all, for the sake of any little child of their union. And immediately, David, people think, but what about marriages that don't have kids?
What about all the exceptions?
Yeah, but it's true that not all marriages create children, but typically marriages create families.
Yeah.
And an institution exists for the typical case.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's important to say at that point that any marriages which don't have children are still fully marriages because they fulfill the two criteria of marriage, which is they bring together those two halves of nature, male and female, in that one flesh union, right? And they can still give a child a mother and a father, obviously an adopted child, but they can still give that child the mother relationship, the father relationship that every little growing mammal needs.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, same-sex marriages don't bring together the two halves of nature. They cannot give a child, any child, they cannot give a child a mother and a father relationship. So, we say at the outset that while same-sex relationships matter greatly to those involved and they demand neighbourly civility on our part,
sure,
they are a different kind of thing to that great natural project of marriage and family.
Yeah.
A different kind of thing. And as you said in your introduction, it is unjust to treat different things as the same when they're not. And so same-sex couples need to find a different word for their relationship because it is not marriage.
Now, recognising that difference has been, I think, unfairly slighted as discrimination. And we're a society that doesn't like to discriminate and make people feel bad because feelings have been somewhat promoted over the importance of truth. But I think a more accurate, and I've heard somebody else say this, can't take credit for it, but it's differentiation, not discrimination. They are different. They are not equal.
That's right. And remember, some fine gay people say that. Can I borrow your book? Because in the chapter on homosexual men speak out, there's a wonderful quote by an Irishman who was deeply involved in the Irish referendum on same-sex marriage, and he says the following. This is Paddy Manning, and he says, if I can find it.
I love those gentlemen.
Brilliant guy. There's a whole chapter on these Australian guys and others.
They managed to extract themselves from their subjective partisan investment in the debate and become objective and prioritise truth.
I mean, he lives in a gay union. He's proud of his liberty and his equality and all that. But he says, but our relationship is not marriage. Don't call it that. And he says this, Paddy Manning, quote, "A same-sex relationship is different to a marriage because marriage is at its heart about children and providing those children with their biological parents." This is it. Recognising difference is not discrimination.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
Very good.
I mean, Dave, you may as well say it's discrimination to say that you can't go to a women's hospital. Now, you may object to that and say, why? I'm a citizen, I should be able to go to a hospital of my choice. But, mate, you can't go to a women's hospital because there are natural conditions and situations unique to women that are dealt with there. And, mate, you just are in the wrong place. It's the same with marriage. Marriage is an institution of nature because of the male-female truth of human nature.
Yeah.
And to try and call it something else, as you said, I think Abraham Lincoln's tail and leg, to try and call it something else, to just make it, to reduce it to a sort of emotional slop of any two adults who are erotically involved and call that marriage, that is like an adolescent prank, right? They're BFF, they're best friends forever, and you call that marriage. But it's not a harmless prank. It's a deeply harmful prank.
Let's pick up on that in the next segment. A common question I get asked a lot is, what harm does it do to your marriage if somebody else gets married?